So that opening clip was just to show you how explosive this deck can be. I know it necessarily wasn't against a meta matchup, but the matches we have showcased for you later on in this video will be. We'll be taking a look at one of the only steel decks that actually gives Ruby Sapphire some trouble in Amethyst Steel, the aggro version that plays like up to 4 Benjas to out your items and stop your card draw, and also against an Emerald Steel, just to show you again just how dominant this deck can be into Steel. Ruby Sapphire is definitely one of the meta contenders for April 2024, and while it historically has struggled with Ruby Amethyst, with the popularity of Ruby Amethyst both falling off and the introduction of Lucky Dime into this deck, it definitely has a better matchup, because if you're able to ramp up your ink and get your card draw off and establish that Lucky Dime, as we know, Ruby Amethyst has no way to interact with it, and even if they are able to be prepared in Maleficent Dragon, Tremaines, etc., your threats off the board, you're getting immediate lore value on them with the Lucky Dime anyways, and you have your own top end, speaking of Ruby cards, in order to deal with their board, and the Lucky Dime basically outraces the Amethyst package of Goats and Spellbook if they play it, which most Ruby Amethyst decks have cut Spellbook now, and that's why this matchup is necessarily not so bad as it used to be. So for that reason, I'm actually not going to show you a Ruby Amethyst matchup, but again, like I said, I'll show you 2 Steel matchups, and unfortunately I had a really nice one against Amber Steel's Song that I deleted. One of the key weaknesses with this deck though is the fact that it is a very combo reliant deck and it has a lot of top end, so you can basically just brick and not have adequate plays for a number of different turns, and that can really put you too far behind the 8 ball to catch up, and your opponent just closes out the game anyway, especially against certain Amethyst variants that are able to get non-questing sources of lore, where your removal doesn't really matter, because if they have a Goat in hand, you can't really out that with a Maleficent Dragon or something like that. So let's go ahead and take a look at some matches and see how the deck performs. If you want a deeper dive on the deck list, kind of like what I did with Ruby Amethyst, make sure you leave a comment and a like on this video, and I'll be happy to spend a little bit more time explaining kind of the interactions and the deck card choices for Ruby Sapphire. So out of all the matches that I had, I opted to show you this one against Amethyst Steel going second, because this is actually one of the only Steel decks that will give you trouble for the sheer fact that the aggro version of this deck is very hard to deal with, and they usually play Benjas, which outs your items and stops your card draw, and you're going to see all of that in this matchup. Plus, if they are able to shift Jafar, right, that's one instance where Wheel, does refresh your hand, but they're also gaining 7 lore in the process. So this matchup can actually be kind of tricky for you. All the other Steel matchups are usually very favored. Even if they do play Benja, you still have a better top end in order to close out the game. Here you can see my opponent develops a Chernobog Followers and a Smee on turns 1 and 2. We got a Popsicle, and seeing that they're kind of valuing the aggro aspect of the Amethyst Steel deck, I'm going to opt to play my Queen and out their Chernobog Followers, preventing a draw 1. Yes, it's not the best trade, but that's why you play the Queen of Hearts, is so that you can slow down some of those aggro threats. My opponent here knows exactly what they're doing, stopping the items from staying on the board, because if I develop that Hiram draw, they know that's how I kind of pop off with the deck, right? If I don't get my draw, I run out of resources and the deck just fizzles out. So Quantum, what are you saying when you were talking about earlier that this deck just bodies Steel? Yes, because again, most Steel decks don't play 4 Benjas, and the odds that they see all of them when they need to is kind of slim. And again, you play cards like this, Develop Your Brains, Grammatalist, to scry for other items that you might need. So here you can see I'm really behind the 8 ball. The opponent has a 2 questing Benja, and again, I talked about this in my Ruby Amethyst deck profile video, where I said when Benja outs an item and they end up having a 2 questing body on board, it is like so insanely beneficial for them. And you can see it here, right? I am really behind it here. Thankfully, on 5 ink, we are able to drop the Maui, which is going to out the Queen's Castle. You can argue, would it be worth outing the Benja there instead of the Queen's Castle? The Benja is the 3 cost body that could sing friends. It does quest for 2. Thankfully, the opponent opts to take out my grandma there, because they don't want me running over their second location. So it stops the quest, but again, I can't out that location now. It's going to take me 2 turns. I do draw the Fishbone Quill here, which is kind of interesting. I'm going to run the Maui into the Queen's Castle, of course, and probably develop this Fishbone Quill and ink the Lucky Dime, because I'm just too far behind in order to try to catch up. So the opponent is unfortunately going to get the extra draw here, and I am running the risk of getting Jafar shifted, but the opponent once again values the Benja, keeping me off the card draw rather than giving me a fresh grip of 7. Maybe they opted not to extend into that right now. They develop a Chernobog Followers, and they're likely going to try and Okay, not even bother moving something to the queen's castle because they know it's going to get outed here. They don't even quest with the Jafar, which tells me they're probably setting up for the shift, right? So on 7 ink, I am going to drop the Be Prepared here. And for all of that advantage, yes, the opponent is ahead on 9 lore here, but they did go first, and we do have a Gaston follow-up, which is pretty solid. They ink their Striking Illusionist and pass turn, and our draws here are very interesting. I'm opting to grab a Medusa here because my thought process is they probably have a Robin Hood or something that they want to play. Yeah, they're fishing for draws. There's the Robin Hood, but not the big one yet. We draw Scar, and this is a really interesting situation. I opt to play the Medusa here over the Dinner Bell and get the draw too, because again, I am anticipating that they have the big Robin Hood to shift and a whole new world that they're waiting to sing. They top deck a Beast Tragic Hero, which is like really good there because, you know, I just used my Medusa, but it's totally fine. We're going to be able to drop the Dinner Bell, draw 2 off of it, and this is what I was talking about. Or maybe I didn't talk about it. Maybe I'll save it for the deck profile. But just having an alternative source of draw, you know, in this particular matchup, it's not the greatest because Dinner Bell gets outed by the Benjas. But in like Ruby Amethyst, if they keep outing your Hirams, right, having a Dinner Bell, something that they can't interact with, actually helps that matchup. Because you, like I said, or maybe I didn't say it yet, but you have so many top end threats. Basically everything in your deck is Dinner Bellable for 2 to up to 7 draws, except for the Queen of Hearts. Every other character you play, Maui's, Maleficent Dragons, Lady Tremaines, Madame Medusas, Tamatoas, you name it, you can Dinner Bell all those away for like a lot of draws. Here, after the opponent wheels, they're going to opt to out my Medusa, and again, giving me a fresh 7 is always a bad idea for the opponent, because we have better top end, and because we are so aggressive on ink. You can see here we got 10 ink. Now we're slowly starting to claw back the advantage. I'm debating if it's worth Dinner Belling this Maui here, because I actually have to be fearful of decking out. The opponent only used 1 whole new world to my knowledge, and so, you know, if I draw 2 off Hiram, I draw 3 off Dinner Bell. Well, I opted to go with the Hiram line here, but like if the opponent casts like 2 more whole new worlds, I could actually be in danger of decking out. So I just have to be aware of that. But you can see that we've more than stabilized the board state now, and we have all of our top end to just close out the game. And there, sure enough, is another whole new world. So glad I didn't use the Maui yet. I think I should probably check their graveyard. Yeah, I checked the deck totals. I got 18 left in my deck, so I probably don't want to quest for too much longer. We're going to Tremaine here most likely because, yeah, I'm checking the graveyard. Okay, that was too fast for me to check what actually happened there. I'm opting not to, or I was checking my own graveyard, sorry. I checked the opponent's there, but I opt not to draw with the Hiram because, again, I don't want to overdraw and be at risk of decking out and losing the game. I guess I don't play the Tremaine, which is interesting. I guess I'm not fearing the Jafar shift, sing a whole new world, simply because I guess I'm thinking that, oh, I remember what I was thinking in this setup. I was like, with only that many cards left in my deck, if they wheel me one more time, it's fine. I'll likely draw the Lucky Dime. And I know that Amethyst Steel has no way to deal with my Tamatoa. They have to, yeah, even if they shift Jafar and have Zeus, they need 2 Zeus in order to take out my Tamatoa, and they can't cast both. So, like, their only out, I think, is like double Zeus, which they can't do. And so right here, you see me value, once again, the Tamatoa to close out the game against Steel. Anticipating that I can draw into a Lucky Dime. I'm going to be able to quest with the Hiram and Dinner Bell away the Maui potentially in order to dig 5 cards deep, plus my draw 6 cards deep in order, and I just drew a Develop Your Brain, so 8 cards deep, draw into another Develop Your Brain, 10 cards deep into my remaining cards in order to hopefully find the Lucky Dime. We draw yet another Hiram that we don't want to play because then we need at least 9 ink in order to cast Lucky Dime and use the effect of it. Now, yeah, there it is, off to Develop Your Brain. We're going to be able to quest, go to 15, grab back a Popsicle, play a Popsicle, and close out the game with Lucky Dime. So what looked like a really dire position to start with, once we stabilized, we were able to definitely close that one out. Alright, in this next matchup, we're going second against Emerald Steel, and this could be a bit of a tricky matchup depending if they get a really strong discard engine going early and you are kind of struggling for your card draw. And so in this matchup, once again, you know, you need to really aggressively try to find your Hiram and establish that Hiram very early on. And our opening hand here looks pretty solid. We've got Ink, we have, turn 1 drop and Popsicle to continue to thin out our deck and draw. We've got to develop your brain, we've got multiple Hieroms, and we have no songs, which is always good because they likely drop turn 2 Ursula. Knowing that we're on red-blue, you might want to opt to save that for like turn 6 when they might be at risk of getting Be Prepared. But they're taking some time here, taking a look at my hand, and them questing with the Robin Hood here tells me that they don't have the shift Robin Hood because they saw the queen in my hand. So absolutely, I'm going to do my best to slow them down. Probably should have played the queen in the back since they probably knew that I drew that for turn, but it's fine. So they have a vanilla 1/3 on board now, which is great for us, keeping the deck very slow. The one thing I do have to be fearful of is like this Ursula, and then if they get to turn 5. Like Lucifer, bippity boppity boo with the Ursula, that combination with Lucifer is just like ridiculous. I got hit by it once, and of course I lost the game. Not with this deck, with another deck, but yeah, they make you discard like up to 6 or something. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's a very specific combo. But seeing that they already used the Ursula Deceiver to look at my hand, and they're not on Amethyst to bounce it back and recast it, I'm putting them on. You probably don't have another one, and even if you do, you probably don't play it. You ink it. So I grabbed the Be Prepared over the Lucky Dime there, knowing that I have a second copy in my deck. They develop a bit of a wide board here, and I'm thinking like, okay, well, you can't have Whole New World and the Shift Robin Hood, and given that you quested with the 1-drop Robin Hood before, my guess is you don't have the Shift Robin Hood, and you're hoping to top deck Ink so that you can cast the Whole New World that's probably in your hand. So for that reason, we're going to probably aggressively start inking here. Yeah, we ink one of those Be Prepareds and just get ready to Be Prep next turn if they don't have an inkable that they can cast what I think is a Whole New World in their hand. So this one might not have been on the discard. This one is probably more of a control aggro version of Emerald Steel, and unfortunately they are going to be able to out our Hierom here. But again, that's totally fine. We have another one in hand, and yeah, they didn't have the Whole New World actually, so this looks really good for us. And again, they Ursula very early, so they probably think we don't have Be Prepared, and we've drawn 3 since then, which is kind of crazy. That's another thing with these Ruby decks, is they are very reliant on you drawing Be Prepared. I think I posted matchups with like my Ruby Amethyst against Sapphire Steel, where I went through like 66% of my deck. I went through 40 cards and didn't see a single one of my 4 Be Prepareds, and I lost the game because of it. And I think I posted that matchup on my channel. And like, that's how critical seeing those are in this game, right? And Ruby Amethyst, just like Sapphire, Ruby draws a lot of cards, and so if you don't see the Be Prepared, you likely just lose anyways. So my opponent being in top deck mode here, we have the Dinner Bell established, we have another Hierom follow-up draw engine, now we have the Tamatoa. This match is over, and this is why this deck can just be so dominant. It's like one of those decks that when it loses, it feels like it's the worst deck ever because you just brick and you can't do anything and your opponent just runs you over. But then when you get to a stage like this, especially against steel decks, it's just like, why are they even playing? Like, there's nothing that they can do to come back. Literally, like, there's nothing they can do. Yeah, it's just like, it's mind-blowing, honestly, because yeah, they have, yeah, I mean, you have 2 Robin Hoods, but I have 10 ink. I'm going to constantly get this cycle going with the Tamatoa Recycle Popsicle, Quest with Hierom, Banish Popsicle, draw 2, draw removal, get rid of whatever threats you have that could potentially take out my Hierom, and this is the endless cycle that just gives you infinite draws. Like, if they don't have a Be Prepared, like, and again, if you're against Steel, like, they have nothing to deal with this. Like, they have to hopefully have a character and like a Zeus or Grab Your Sword Zeus or something to just stop the Hierom engine once you establish this setup. And again, like I mentioned, for my tech option, I've opted to include a Dinner Bell. They need to be playing Benjas. They need to see both in order to out one or the other draw engine, and it's just not enough. So if you really want to beat Steel, Ruby Sapphire is definitely a great contender. I had a match where I absolutely destroyed an Amber Steel song going second, and unfortunately I deleted it by accident. Like, it was a really good match, and I'm actually kind of salty I don't have it. But again, if you want to see more gameplay with this deck list or with this deck, let me know. And if you made it this far in the video, a like would be appreciated. If you enjoyed the content, thank you again for watching. Quantum is out.